It's no secret that in the past few years, the sweet scent of tea and drama has permeated throughout YouTube like never before. After all, it's only part of being human that we're gonna have spats and disagreements with one another. And drama can be fascinating to watch. In the same way that conflict drives many of the stories and movies we've come to love, the same is true in our lives. Some types of content naturally lend themselves to more conflict than others. But today's video is about drama in a place you might not expect: the mukbang community. For the uninitiated, the premise of the mukbang genre is simple. People film themselves eating food. While some people take a more conversational approach by regularly engaging with the viewer and telling stories, others focus on the ASMR side of it, placing great emphasis on the sounds of themselves eating. Everybody has their own style, and I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it can get pretty weird. But honestly, I can see the appeal of this type of content. Some people find the videos to be helpful in changing their perception of eating or satisfying their cravings, while for other people, the YouTubers act as a sort of stand-in friend for the viewer, even if only through a screen. However, many people have criticized this style of content and find it to be disgusting and revolting, in addition to promoting gluttony and unhealthy behavior. One mukbanger who has often found himself at the center of criticism is Nikocado Avocado. In fact, there are entire videos taking jabs at everything from his constant melodrama to the way he eats. Sometimes these videos will compare him to other mukbangers or to his past self.
Leave that comment right now.
Although there's definitely been a spike in discussion surrounding the drama of Nikocado Avocado, he's been the subject of criticism for quite a while. As early as May 19th, 2018, Elvis the Alien uploaded a video called The Mukbang Manchild, in which Elvis describes Nick as a crybaby and pokes fun at his tendency to document all of his problems publicly. There's no shortage of videos depicting Nick crying or appearing to have a mental breakdown. In fact, people have actually created compilations documenting this, with videos such as Nikocado Avocado Mental Breakdown Compilation, Nikocado Eating and Crying Compilation, Nikocado Avocado Eats Himself Fat and Cries About It Cringe Comp, and Nikocado Avocado Crying Compilation. If you thought this was confined to how his detractors choose to portray him, then you'd be wrong. In fact, Nick appears to have embraced this perception of him, ingraining it into the aesthetic and branding of his channel. In addition to recording videos of himself visibly upset, he plays to this image in his thumbnails and titles, with videos such as Nobody Likes Me Anymore, I'm Going to Quit, Mukbang, My Life is Over, KFC Mukbang, My Life is Falling Apart, Sonic Mukbang, Why I'm Quitting YouTube and Deleting My Entire Channel, and many more examples. Now, to be clear, there's nothing wrong with being sensitive. But when you're constantly making videos talking about every little problem you have, then at a certain point, it crosses the line into melodramatic theatrics. And in Nick's case, even if these videos may be predicated on real emotions, there's certainly a performative aspect to them. From how he chooses to brand and market his own content, it's clear that Nick has at least some self-awareness, and realizes that there's a lot of viewership to be had from broadcasting a train wreck.
I'm dramatic. I make terrible videos, I cry, I'm emotional, I do stupid stuff for attention.
Nikocado Avocado had already been a controversial figure for quite some time. He was involved in drama in the past, but it was nothing people didn't already expect. And for the most part, his videos still got more likes than dislikes. But that was all about to change soon. Something big was about to happen. On December 21st, 2019, the mukbanger Stephanie Soo uploaded a video called Why I Am Scared of Nikocado Avocado, which has amassed about 10 million views as of right now. In the video, Stephanie claims that Nick bullied and manipulated her, and even says that it got to the point where her home safety was in question. But one of the most serious claims she made against Nick is that he has a pattern of predatory behavior.
I think when someone shows me a pattern of predatory behavior, I'm not going to not listen, I'm not going to ignore it.
Whether or not this claim has any merit is something we'll discuss later. You might be wondering why I'm covering old drama. Well, aside from the fact it takes me forever to make a video, I feel like there's more to the story that not many people really talk about. If you're already very familiar with the drama between Nikocado Avocado and Stephanie Soo, and you just want to skip to the good stuff, then I'll put a timestamp on screen that you can skip ahead to. But for now, here's a summary of everything she said in the video. Stephanie's first interactions with Nick on a personal level were through Instagram DMs. Nick asked her to share her side of the story regarding some past drama involving mukbanger Veronica Wang. To give a little context, in the past, there was some drama in the mukbang community between the YouTubers Veronica Wang and Shukbang. I'll quickly summarize what you need to know. Veronica and Stephanie used to be friends and filmed a collab together. A channel by the name of Shukbong made an edit of their collab that would poke fun at how greedy Veronica appeared over food. While Stephanie thought the video was funny, Veronica didn't and chose to falsely strike Shukbong's channel, an action that drew heavy criticism and damaged her reputation. Shukbong would then reach out to Nick for help, who chastised Veronica for targeting Shukbong. Although Nick wanted Stephanie to address the situation in a video, Stephanie declined because she didn't think she was involved or that she needed to make a video. Not too long after, Nick had asked her if she wanted to collab with him, but she declined because she felt the drama was too fresh at the time. In August, he came to Los Angeles and asked if she wanted to collab, and she declined him again, this time for other reasons. However, she still wanted to meet him in person, so she set up a dinner with her, Nick, and fellow mukbanger Zach Choi.
Honestly, immediately going in, I was nervous because I was like, oh, anytime we've talked before, he's just been asking nonstop about Veronica, and so I even went in with this gift of like a bottle of champagne and these macaroons.
As more time passed, she started to feel like her friendship with Nick was growing and getting stronger. She began to feel increasingly comfortable with him, which was a big deal because Stephanie had said that she was previously a victim of sexual assault, which shattered her sense of security. She opened up about this to Nick. She felt like she could relate to Nick in the sense that both of them seemed to be very cautious about their home safety. Eventually, Nick asked again if she wanted to collab with him. And this time, because they had become good friends and a lot of time had passed since the drama with Veronica, Stephanie agreed. That Saturday went reasonably well. But the main issues would start on Sunday, when they decided to film 3 videos with fellow mukbanger Zach Choi. While they were discussing what to talk about in the mukbang, Nick would assert that they were going to talk about Veronica Wang. However, Stephanie didn't like this. She explained to Nick that she had no problem talking about Shukbong, but it wouldn't go any further than that. During the filming process of their second video, Nick brought up Shukbong.
The way he went about it was just so almost like an interrogation. I had these baby wipes in front of me and I kept wiping him every time he got too serious to just kind of play it off like, let me wipe him. And every single time I tried to do that, increasingly, it seemed like he got more offended. He would look at me with such a shocked face. But you said you wanted to talk about it and now you don't?
Although she tried to signal that she was uncomfortable and attempted to change the topic, Nick would continue to pressure her to talk about it. He would then bring up Veronica.
And it increasingly went from Shukbong, maybe the first 2 sentences, into Veronica.
Stephanie claims that he started twisting her words.
And he started saying things like, if only you guys knew what she told me. I would never tell you guys what happened because she shared it with me in private. She trusts me with these things. But if you only knew.
When you sat down with me.
Nick would also imply that Veronica did something horrendous to Stephanie, but Stephanie explained that it wasn't that serious.
Oh, whoa, it's not that serious. Like, all I did was go pick up hair dye with her, you know? I was driving around town, like, we were picking up hair dye. She canceled on a video because she wanted to dye her hair again.
Stephanie also says she didn't want to make this video about Nick because she thought people would just dismiss her concerns. She explains that she was afraid to say anything as she didn't want to incite his rage, and claims that Nick was aware she was uncomfortable, but continued to pressure her anyway.
Because I felt like if I said, I'm uncomfortable or I'm scared or why did you do that, he would just get more and more increasingly angry with me. I had this feeling of, I just need to do whatever I can to get through tonight and tomorrow because we have collabs scheduled tomorrow because I don't want him to get angry. I don't want him to make a video using these words and trying to say all these things I said about Veronica. I just wanted to get through tonight.
Before they filmed the 3rd video, Stephanie was on the phone with her dad and tried to make it sound like she had bad family issues going on so that she could get out of it. She would continue to try to find a way out. She also describes how uncomfortable the experience of filming the 3rd mukbang was.
At the end of the ASMR, because it was a whispering one, Nick turned to me and he said, is there anything else you'd like to say? And I just remember feeling so gutted. Like my heart had dropped to the ground because I thought it was going to be another interrogation.
What would you like to say?
Thank you for watching us eat these. And so I said, thanks for watching us eat this food.
She had a breakdown that night and insinuated that it even made her feel worse than when she was sexually assaulted.
I had a breakdown and it was unlike any other breakdown I had. It was one where I felt shame, guilt, because say, I did say I would talk about it. Didn't I? I don't know. He said I did. So I must have. And then this shame of, why did you even stay for the third video? Why didn't you tell him no?
She had this to say about how Nick made her feel.
After everything that's happened in the past, I told myself I would never, ever, ever feel like that again.
She then showed security footage of her fiancé comforting her. Stephanie then explained that she had been in and out of sleep as a result of the stress that Nick caused her that day.
It had been a really long night, and I went to sleep at around 7 a.m. I was in and out of sleep until around 2 p.m.
According to her account of events, she missed messages from both Nick and Zach. Later, she called Zach at 2:20 p.m. and said that she had been up all night editing and would have to cancel that day. She also said in the video that the thought of texting Nick at the time made her anxious, so she sent a group message to Nick and Zach at 3:29 p.m., explaining that she wasn't able to film the last collab for Zach's channel. The reason she gave was that she had trouble sleeping and was feeling sick, in addition to having to finish up sponsored videos. This irritated Nick, who responded with this.
You just now realized? Stephanie, I have been sitting here for 5 hours. When you were going in and out of sleep, you should have picked up the phone and given me a call, not leave me hanging. You didn't like it when Veronica did that to you. So no, I'm sorry. I do not understand.
Stephanie texted him back and apologized multiple times. She told Nick she was uncomfortable with the video they filmed the previous day and explained that she had no problem talking about Shukbong. She just didn't want to talk about Veronica. Nick was frustrated by this and replied, "Then why did you tell me at your house that you wanted to address it on my channel? Also, why are you texting this to Zach? I've messaged you privately." In her response, Stephanie explains that she wanted to address the issue there since all three of them were in the video. She apologizes again and says that she wasn't aware that there was a gap of miscommunication. Nick was still not satisfied, writing, "You already talked to Zach this morning, but ignored me for 5 hours after that. Don't play games." Nick tried to reschedule, but Stephanie said she wasn't able to, which really irritated him. Literally at any point in this conversation, you could have resumed with our videos planned for tonight. Please talk to me. Zach told me he wants to be left out. I've reached out half a dozen times already. Please talk to me there. Can you give me a call, please? I haven't heard from you personally since yesterday, and I feel we need to chat. You only message things to the group chat, but not to me here. This is going to be my last time reaching out for the evening. I'm feeling hurt. Please talk to me, not through Zach. She did not respond, and received 8 missed calls from Nick. In the video, Stephanie would display descriptions of manipulative behavior to go along with what Nick was saying in his text messages. To make matters worse, Nick would publicly toy around with the idea of making an exposed video on her.
His Instagram post that's still up right now as of filming this, and I'm gonna put it right here, and it says, "I'm this effing close to making an exposing video. Should I? What the F is wrong with people? So rude, so self-serving, and inconsiderate." And then he posted a story with a black screen, making some tea, you guys. You won't believe the audacity people have, but I have lots of receipts and audio clips.
Stephanie says that if Nick recorded any audio clips, then they would have been illegally recorded, since she did not consent to any recordings being made. He also posted an Instagram story in which he and some other people are seen mocking Stephanie for saying she's been in and out of sleep.
I've just been in and out of sleep, and I don't know what's going on, but I got things to do. I got things to do.
Have you been in and out of sleep?
I'm in and out of sleep. Oh my gosh. In and out of sleep right now.
Nick would also take photos behind her back while she was using the bathroom.
I used the restroom once, and during that time that I slipped away to the restroom very, very quickly, the one time that I did, without letting me know what he was doing, he took multiple pictures inside my house. And then immediately he started looking around at the ceiling. I didn't have any cool light fixtures up there. I just don't know what else would be up there other than security cameras.
Stephanie's fiance had this to say about Nick taking photos.
When he was showing, he said, "Hey, let me show you what food we're eating." He switched the camera on his phone, but instead of pointing the camera down onto the kitchen counter, it was
where the food is.
But it was to my face for a good 3 seconds. So my reaction was, okay, now this is awkward. Do I act like I don't know what's going on? Do I say something? Do I turn around? But at the same time, I don't want to overreact. It's just a little weird and uncomfortable.
Stephanie says that her home security footage would reveal the truth, but she couldn't show it due to California law. For those of you who don't know, California is a two-party consent state, which means permission must be granted from all parties in order to make a recording lawful. Owners of these cameras don't need to ask permission to record in a public place, so long as there is no audio eavesdropping on a private conversation. This applies to home security cameras. Lastly, Stephanie talks about bullying and how it made her feel when she saw Nick making fun of her on Instagram while tagging a whole bunch of other people.
Again, like more shame and embarrassment because a lot of the people that he tagged are people that he knew that I would say, oh my god, I've watched her since high school, or oh, I love her, you know, I did a collab with her.
She would also say that it made her feel scared.
I also felt scared because now it felt like if I say something, it's not just going up against Nick, but look at all the friends he has.
All in all, the video had a massive impact on the community, and became Stephanie's most viewed video by a significant margin, prompting many people to rally against not only Nick, but the other people who also got involved, such as Hyunny Eats, who can be seen mocking Stephanie with Nick. Many people were calling Nick a predator, and even if Stephanie never explicitly said that he sexually assaulted her, she certainly compared the two in terms of how it made her feel. It would appear that the audience had finally reached a saturation point with Nick, and he would receive enormous amounts of backlash as a result. However, there were a few issues with Stephanie's video, and things people seem to have missed. I couldn't help but feel that most of the coverage on the situation was one-sided. What was the whole story? Let's take a look. First of all, it's important to understand why Stephanie's video was so persuasive and efficient in turning people against Nick. A big part of why Stephanie's video was so compelling to viewers was that she was able to successfully frame a narrative about Nick and establish him as a malicious and malevolent figure, rather than simply a crude and boorish one. The video takes it a step further than your average exposé, with its use of terminology that seems to hint at something far more sinister than what Nick has actually done.
I think when someone shows me a pattern of predatory behavior, I'm not going to not listen. I'm not going to ignore it. A yes is not all-inclusive. Just because you say yes doesn't mean you're saying yes to everything for the rest of forever. That's incredibly predatory and manipulative.
It's worth mentioning that Stephanie never uses the word predator. She just describes Nick's behavior as predatory. So what did Nick do that she would consider predatory? There are two things that come to mind. One of Stephanie's main points is how Nick kept pressuring her to talk about something she didn't want to, even when she was uncomfortable. I don't consider this predatory. Assuming Nick knew she was uncomfortable, that would make him pushy and inconsiderate, but it wouldn't mean he's engaging in predatory behavior. And furthermore, we don't know what happened behind the scenes. It's completely possible that when Stephanie met Nick for dinner, she might have said some things that gave him the wrong impression, or possibly said some things about Veronica that now she's trying to walk back. Stephanie also points to this clip of Nick complaining about how he was hoping to have sex with someone, but nothing happened.
Come on over, we'll hang out, we'll do our stuff, we can mukbang and then do stuff after. You know, it was not about just film with me, it was about like, we're gonna get it on. I literally blew dry my hair all over again. I put on so much perfume, I wasted it. I wasted $90 perfume. And I made sure I washed my extra good. And they eat all your food and they leave and you're like, I wasted my time and I scrubbed my for this experience. Because I was nice enough to say, I'll eat whatever you want to eat. Because I'm gonna get sucked. You know, like, okay? I'm gonna bend over because, I'm gonna give you what you want. Or I'm gonna get what I want. And nothing happened. Waiting to get my action. Well, no wonder, dude. You're a loser.
I am in New York for a very limited amount of time. My time was important. I would have rather spent it alone. This was supposed to enhance my trip, not make it more frustrating.
But you have to understand where I'm coming from too. I'm clearly signaling to you, I am ready. You are here for to be ready. I'm not going to just grab it because you will come back and it's gonna be the little Me Too movement.
Stephanie would go on to say that she can no longer support Nick as a person and calls him out for supposedly belittling the Me Too movement.
There is no part of this video that I can stand by and say that I support Nick as a person.
And it's gonna be the little Me Too movement.
And it's not the little Me Too movement. How dare you discredit an entire movement?
Obviously, it's not a very good look to post a video of yourself ranting about not getting to have sex, but pay close attention to what he says next.
I'm not going to just grab it because you will come back and it's gonna be the little Me Too movement.
Stephanie seemed to take a huge issue with what he said here, and uses this clip as evidence of him being predatory and manipulative. But when you really dissect what he's saying, it's a surprisingly ambiguous statement. There are two ways to interpret this. If you already believe Nick is a bad person, then you're more likely to agree with Stephanie that this is evidence of a predatory pattern of behavior. You might interpret this as him saying that the main reason he didn't have inappropriate contact with someone is because he didn't want to face backlash. It might also sound like he used the phrase "Little Me Too" movement to belittle the entire movement. You might take what he said seriously, or you might also think it sounds like he's joking. But for argument's sake, let's assume he was serious. So let me present another interpretation of this. Just hear me out. Nick explicitly says that he didn't touch anybody. When he says this,
I'm not going to just grab it because you will come back and it's gonna be the little Me Too movement.
he might have just meant it like, why would I do this and create all these problems for myself? Furthermore, although Stephanie and many others heard Little Me Too movement, you could also make the argument that he said the whole Me Too movement. As in, why would I do something as stupid as this and incite the wrath of an entire movement? Even YouTube's auto-generated captions think he said whole and not little. This may seem like nitpicking, but one word can have a surprisingly big impact on the meaning of a statement. And in this case, it's this one word that allows Stephanie to criticize Nick for supposedly belittling the Me Too movement. It's worth mentioning that this is just a theory, and Nick himself didn't clarify the exact word in his response video. Maybe he did say little, but regardless, the point remains. It's literally a clip of him saying he didn't make a move. He may have been upset that nothing happened, but nothing he said indicated that he pressured the other guy to do something he didn't want to do. But even if Nick didn't pressure him to make a move, he's still ranting about someone with no audience. There's a power imbalance, and even if he didn't reveal the person's identity, it could still be intimidating. Here's Nick's explanation.
My comments about the Me Too movement that she chopped and chipped out of context was actually me saying the opposite of what she was trying to portray me as saying. I didn't make a move because I'm not a mind reader, and you have to be mindful because of the day and age and the culture we're in. And I was upset because I said, wow, 8 hours have gone by. Which is the opposite of being a predator and having predatory tendencies, where you convince them or pressure them to make a move, or you actually make a move without them consenting to it. I literally did the opposite.
But although Stephanie was careful enough to not use terminology that would incriminate her of defamation or slander, the way she chose to frame the situation was still questionable, to say the least. For instance, in the beginning of her videos, Stephanie likes to take little clips from different parts of the video and compile them together as a sort of sneak peek on what you can expect to see. While there's nothing inherently wrong with that, in this case, the way she splices them together can easily be taken the wrong way.
In and out of sleep.
In and out of sleep. Hopefully you can trust me now.
I do.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I do.
Good. Little Me Too movement.
Hashtag me too.
As you can see, first there are clips of Nick, followed by a clip of her talking about the Me Too movement, and then the security footage I previously mentioned. Pairing Nick's image with the Me Too movement and security footage, especially so early in the video, can be very misleading. In fact, as a result of the way this was edited, many people were under the impression that Nick was a predator. Her video is almost 48 minutes long, and although I watched the whole thing, it's no secret that on average, the viewers don't watch the entire video. And this is true all across the platform. Whether it's on a conscious level or not, this is essentially priming the viewer to associate Nick with topics of sexual assault. Especially when Stephanie herself compared how Nick made her feel to the way she felt after being sexually assaulted. While Nick's behavior could certainly be considered crass and immature, I don't think it's fair to say someone has a predatory pattern of behavior because they're pressuring you to talk about some drama, or because they're being a sourpuss about not getting to have sex. In fact, when I first watched her video, I wasn't really sure what the home security footage here was depicting. And I know from reading other people's comments that I wasn't the only one who thought this. People who don't investigate any further might think this is a clip of Nick assaulting her, and I found the editing to be irresponsible. In the beginning of the video, Stephanie has this to say.
A lot of things can just be solved offline, but because of how extreme things have gotten recently, I just want to share my side. I feel like I've been manipulated by fear, that I can't say no to him. I just want to take back my power to say no.
She uses similar wording when describing her sexual assault.
Some of you may know, but I was sexually assaulted in my own home. It was somebody that I had to let into my home, and then they took away my power to say no.
I'm not saying that you can't use similar adjectives to describe different situations, but when you use phrases like, "I just want to take back my power to say no," in a video that touches upon heavy themes such as sexual assault and the METOO movement, it effectively paints Nick's actions as worse than they actually are. It's just a strange way to describe it. In fact, she even says that the only time she felt like this before was a couple of years ago.
And the only way that I've ever felt like this to any degree in my life prior to Nick was a couple years ago. And I vowed I would never find myself in a position like that ever again, where I felt like no really didn't have a lot of power.
It's possible that this is truly how she felt, and that Nick pressuring her to talk about the drama triggered those exact same emotions, but she still has a responsibility to not mislead her viewers. It's just important to be cognizant of how she chooses to frame the situation. Most of the drama that YouTubers find themselves entangled in naturally vanishes after enough time, without causing too much damage. If you truly want to tar the reputation of a YouTuber, you would need to create the impression that they are beyond redemption. Stephanie Soo was the perfect person for this, and Nikocado Avocado was the perfect target. Nick was already disliked by a large amount of people, which made him an easy target. Now, what do James Charles, Slazzo, and Pro Jared have in common? They were all YouTubers who got cancelled, but were eventually able to pull an Uno reverse card, and essentially uncancel themselves. While a lot of this is due to the fact that they were able to pull receipts and successfully prove their case, they also have several additional advantages over someone like Nick. Each of these people were generally liked and respected. Nick, on the other hand, was already a laughingstock.
Stop feeding the cats! Stop feeding the cats! Stop feeding the cats!
People already disliked him, and it wouldn't have taken much to trigger an avalanche of backlash against him. The question is, was this backlash justified? Aside from the misleading way Stephanie presented the situation, there were other things in her video that didn't seem to fully add up. When she's talking about Nick taking photos in her house, she heavily emphasizes how alarming it was, and how difficult it was for her to let people into her home.
You knew why I'm so paranoid. You know why I have such a hard time letting people into my home.
Stephanie made a pretty big deal about how Nick was taking photos of her house while she was in the bathroom, and Nick had this to say to defend himself.
It is so ethically wrong to insinuate that I was taking photos while you were in the bathroom, and you had no idea as to why that was the case. That is deliberate manipulation in order to sell a story. And out of the few photos I took, they're only of the same room. The kitchen and the seating area. I didn't walk anywhere else and take any other photos. I wasn't looking around for suspicious things. I was admiring her furniture.
Nick showed a photo he took where she is clearly visible in the shot to aid his point that Stephanie was aware of the reason he was taking pictures. Stephanie had this to say about the photo.
Well, this is a picture that you showed in your video. And then you said that you took it because you wanted to see my lighting setup, which I do remember. You said, "Can I take a picture of your lighting setup?" I said yes. I don't know about you, but typically I'd like to get a closer shot of the actual lighting setup if I wanted a picture of the lighting setup.
No, your lighting setup includes all of the lights in your room. Unless you turn all of your lights off when you film videos, the other lights in your kitchen is a part of the lighting setup. And look at how many lights there are.
In fact, Stephanie was apparently so bothered by this that she posted an Instagram story claiming she got a lawyer, writing, "This is the last time I'll address this entire situation." He posted my security monitor on his video and mentioned specific location information about my house in another video. Due to this, I have obtained attorneys to handle this matter going forward. However, it's important to ask, is this really as big of a privacy and security issue as Stephanie makes it out to be, or is she just using it as leverage against Nick? Stephanie denied that she showed off her house in the way Nick described.
When have I ever showed off to you, Nick? It seems like you talk about my house more than I do.
She then talks about how Nick would ask her questions about her house and responds to Nick's claim that she was happy to show it off to him.
And I think you were happy to show it off to me.
I would never show that off to you or anyone for that matter.
Are you sure about that? One point that the YouTuber Karina Fujio brought up was that Stephanie has made many house videos herself. New house reveal plus empty house tour. Dogs react to the new house, do they approve? And a bunch of furniture hauls and home decor hauls. If she would never show off her house or furniture to anyone else, then how come she did exactly that, not once, but multiple times? It just doesn't add up. She also took issue with him releasing a photo that showed her security camera in the middle. To be fair, knowing where someone's security cameras are pointed and what they show is information that someone who's trying to break in would need, even if the image wasn't very clear anyway. So how come she showed it herself in her own videos?
Evidently, she is an even bigger threat to her own security, seeing how she has posted multiple videos where you can see her camera monitor in full view.
It does seem particularly advantageous for her to suddenly start caring so much about people knowing what the inside of her house looks like when she already put it on the internet herself, and when photos and in-depth descriptions of it are already available online. There's an article in Variety.com that not only describes her house in great detail, but shows 15 photos of it.
So then you went on to release the exact pictures that I would never want on the internet.
To be fair, when I clicked on the photos, they appeared to be from Realtor.com, and there was no indication that the author of the article actually reached out to Stephanie. It is possible she wasn't aware of this article's existence or had already made previous attempts to get it removed. Although Stephanie filming videos of her home herself isn't the same as someone taking photos of her house without her knowledge, it's also worth considering that because she gave him permission while she was present, maybe Nick just assumed that it wouldn't have been an issue to take more, or that she just gave him permission in general. It's easy to see how he might have just assumed consent, although he still should have made sure he had permission since the circumstances had changed, and Stephanie wasn't there. And to be fair, if Stephanie's fiancé was telling the truth or interpreting the situation correctly when he said Nick was sneakily taking photos, that is pretty weird. As you can probably tell, Nick isn't very slick. In his video, Nick claims that Stephanie gave him a house tour as soon as he showed up.
The moment I stepped into her home, she gave me a whole house tour. I don't know if I went to every room, but I walked through, 5, 6, 7 different places. She took me from room to room, bathroom to bathroom, bedroom to bedroom, even outside to the pool, to the swing, everything. You will also see that upon arrival, she pointed out various pieces of furniture, and I asked her, as a fellow YouTuber, that's a beautiful couch, where's that from? Oh, it's from this place. Oh, that's a beautiful light fixture. A whole house tour, and she was very excited to show it off to me.
He was FaceTiming his husband Orlin. She would show off her house, according to Nick.
She proceeded to show off her refrigerator, her microwave that slides out or something from the counter, the marble countertops. She pulled out her phone and said, oh, this is the type of marble I had.
Nick also said that he was simply admiring her house, and there was nothing else to it. Stephanie makes it a point to emphasize that Nick would talk about her house and ask her about her security system. Some people may think this is creepy due to how Stephanie presented it, but it's worth pointing out that Trisha Paytas says he asked about her security system as well, and it's possible that Nick just wanted to know for himself.
And just to be fair, he's asked me about security as well, which I didn't really understand that part in her video.
In addition to bringing up security and safety concerns, Stephanie was worried that anything she said would be used against her by Nick.
I felt like anything I say, even Nick's stop, he would use it and make an exposing video or threaten me with it.
Although Nick threatened to make a video exposing her, and he shouldn't have done that, it wouldn't have escalated to this point if Stephanie didn't flake on him and just communicated properly. Regardless, this unfortunate blunder would soon ignite a race to see who can expose each other first. All of which begs the question, what dirt did Nick have on Stephanie that was so damning? What did she say about Veronica during that dinner? Stephanie claims there was unreleased footage that only Nick has, and it was of the second mukbang they filmed with Zach Choi.
Now this is the footage that is him interrogating me. He thinks I set him up and made faces in it. I was actually just so freaking terrified and scared in that moment.
She also claims that her home security footage would show the truth, but she would need Nick's consent to release the footage. But towards the end of the video, she says this.
So at this point, I'm done talking about it. I don't want to do any more back and forth because this was absolutely ridiculous. All he did was contradict himself, bluntly lie, and twist and manipulate stories.
So basically, even if Nick does give his consent for her to release the footage after this, it wouldn't do anything because she already said she's done with it. It's a lose-lose for Nick. Another point Karina Fujio brought up is that Stephanie's crying in her past videos seems a lot more authentic than in her first video about Nick.
These tears are much more real. She's constantly messing with her nose, her eyes are very wet, she isn't switching her entire persona, and she's sniffling constantly because her nose is actually running.
It was lame. And I can't forget,
She's wiping her eyes a lot more because she's actually crying. And when she calms down, it isn't abrupt and immediate like in her exposure video. It's a smooth transition. Her facial expression is different. It's scrunched.
And I wanted to protect this person. I wanted them to stop hurting them. And I didn't know what to do.
She looks like it hurts to talk because that's how it feels when you're actually crying.
You know when your mouth gets really big because you're trying to overcompensate, your mouth is overcompensating for the lack of noise coming out, so your mouth is like...
Furthermore, something that Nick pointed out was that the thumbnail of her first video didn't even appear in the video. That means she deliberately had to pose like this, which doesn't inherently prove anything since all YouTubers sensationalize to an extent, but given the subject matter, it is a bit suspicious. Nick apologized to the other people he tagged in his Instagram story for dragging them into the drama.
I owe a big apology publicly to the people I tagged who had no idea what that was about. It was childish, it was stupid, it was dumb, it was a taunting tactic. It was really taunting. I'm sorry for bringing in those 4 people into it because they're not the type of people who would do that.
However, it's worth pointing out that by Stephanie including the post of them mocking her in her video, it actually sent a lot of hatred towards the people involved. Keep in mind, these people had no way of knowing Stephanie had a breakdown or was going through something serious. He only apologized and said she was just trying to comfort her friend Nick.
I would first like to apologize to Stephanie for hurting her in any way, and I would also like to apologize to my honeybees. I received a call from Nick. He was crying and he was telling me that he hasn't eaten in 6 hours. So Nick really was upset and confused as to why she was avoiding him, because they had a great time the other day when they filmed.
One of the points Nick tries to drive home in his video is that Stephanie really wanted to talk about Veronica behind closed doors, but as soon as cameras were rolling, she acted like she was uncomfortable. Nick would bring up how Stephanie wanted to make a Shane Dawson-style documentary about Veronica Wang, in which the people involved discussed the aftermath of the situation and everything Veronica did. Nick frames this as Stephanie wanting to expose her, but a closer look at the text messages show that Stephanie mainly just wanted, quote, to be an unbiased voice that can help people see all of us in a different, deeper way. In fact, she tells Nick that she wants to show he's not just there for the drama, and that she wants to show a more vulnerable side of him.
I would also like to showcase a side of you that shows that you're not just here for the drama, but you're here for the underdogs, and the words she said to you hurt you and not just angered you. I would also like people to see a little glimpse of vulnerability from Nikocado, obviously to your comfort, just like how my perspective changed when I actually got to meet you in person. If you don't know the difference between exposing someone, a tea video, spilling the tea, versus having a productive adult conversation, then I don't know, that seems like it's on you.
The text messages definitely show that he was misrepresenting her intentions, and whether or not that was intentional is up to you to decide. Nick also claimed that she was using him and Zach for views, but the truth is that she wanted to do it regardless, and only chose not to because Veronica shut her down.
And Nick claims that I didn't do it because Nick didn't want to be a part of it. In reality, Veronica shut me down.
In his response, Nick claims that Stephanie kept talking about Veronica. Stephanie countered these claims by showing evidence of Nick talking about Veronica a lot. With that being said, we don't know what happened behind the scenes. And just because Nick talked about Veronica a lot doesn't necessarily mean that Stephanie didn't do her fair share of gossiping as well. Even if she didn't want to get publicly involved, she might still have gossiped about Veronica. Stephanie claims that Nick was partaking in emotional manipulation by being passive-aggressive in his text messages to her. First, keep in mind that at this point, there's no way Nick could have known that prodding her to talk about something would trigger the same type of trauma from her sexual assault. It's completely understandable that he would be unhappy if someone he was collaborating with left him hanging for several hours, especially considering that there was no way for him to foresee the severity of the situation. With that being said, when he was trying to make her feel guilty by saying, "You didn't like that when Veronica did that to you," that can definitely be considered emotional manipulation, so it's not true to say Nick wasn't manipulative as well. But although he may have been emotionally manipulative to an extent, he very clearly tries to get in touch with Stephanie and wants her to talk to him. This isn't passive-aggressive behavior, he's being very direct about communicating his needs. Sure, he may have done it in a brash and rude way, but it's not passive-aggressive. I mean, let's be real here, you would be pretty angry too if someone flaked on you. One of Nick's points is that Stephanie claims she didn't want to say no, but she said no to him many times before. This is an admittedly weak point because it doesn't take into account the fact that the dynamics of their friendship had changed since when she declined him in the past. Also, declining someone over text is very different from being blindsided and put on the spot in real life, especially when the cameras are rolling. To support her claim of Nick being manipulative, Stephanie said that the guy Nick tried to hook up with messaged her.
Nick had a date in New York City, and he claims that he didn't belittle the Me Too movement, and he was a little bit upset that he had spent a lot of time and perfume and money on food for this guy that he met in New York, and they didn't do anything afterwards. And he said, December 21st, Nikocado did it to me. I am that boy that little Me Too video is about. I would love to talk to you about it. We have a lot in common. I have all the screenshots as well. And then he showed me screenshots of Snapchat and a picture that he took with Nick. I was so scared because he kept making all these posts about how he was gonna tell this big story about me. And I kept begging him to not post anything about me because unlike him, I'm just a regular person with no level of fame. In the original video, he showed me, but with an emoji over my face and proceeded to call me a loser. It was just so crazy because like he did to you, he made me feel so comfortable in person when we first met. We talked all night, and then when I left, he gave me a hug and said it was nice meeting you, and I said it was nice meeting him too. So I thought we left on good terms. Then on Snapchat, he told me he was pissed that I didn't hook up with him. And I was so confused because I thought we left happy. And then he went and filmed that rant video about me, and he got so much hate for it, he took it down. And then he made another one about me, but once again got hate and took it down. But it's scary because we filmed a regular video, so he has that footage of me, in addition to some naked pictures. I was so happy when it was all over because he could have destroyed me, and still could.
However, there are a few things that call into question just how valid this really is. First of all, a YouTuber as big as Stephanie Soo likely gets tons and tons of DMs. So we have to ask, what are the chances she just so happened to come across this one? It's possible, but it's just something to think about. But in addition to that, there's still no way of really verifying this because it's anonymous. I get why it's anonymous, but there's still no hard evidence of Nick partaking in predatory behavior. The most valid point Nick makes is that Stephanie's video could be misconstrued by viewers as portraying him as a predator. Of course, if somebody just saw the intro and the message they got out of it was Nick is a sexual predator, then they're also at fault for making assumptions. But creators with large audiences still have a responsibility to present things in a non-misleading way.
I never implied that Nick sexually harassed me.
The intro of your video heavily implies it. You may not have insinuated that Nick sexually harassed you, but you absolutely implied that he's a predator.
I never implied that Nick did anything illegal.
But you did.
I never consented to any audio clips. So that means these were illegally recorded?
However, Nick has made some flawed and inaccurate arguments as well. He falsely claimed that Stephanie put all of her items on sale to capitalize off of the drama, but it turned out to just be a site-wide sale on Fanjoy, most likely because it was around Christmas. He then calls into question the validity of Stephanie's claim that she was hurt by being mocked for going in and out of sleep, and his argument was that it must not have hurt so much if she's willing to put it on a shirt. This was honestly a really weak argument from Nick. Many people use humor as a coping mechanism, and it's not hard to believe that someone would try to turn something negative into something positive. Nick also claims Stephanie was against subliminal marketing and said she wouldn't include logos unless she was paid. However, a search through her catalog of videos will show that this is not true, and there are indeed multiple examples of videos with brand logos that she was not paid to include, as far as we know. Unfortunately, these errors in his video undermine his credibility to the audience, because even if Stephanie implied he was a predator in front of 10 million people, people will watch the videos and notice the inconsistencies, and will be more inclined to doubt him. What sets this drama apart from the others is that everybody is in the wrong in one way or another. Nick instigated the whole thing with his immaturity. He pressured Stephanie to speak, impulsively threatened to expose her, and mocked her publicly, even if nobody knew who it was about at the time. On the other hand, Stephanie arguably exploited the power and weight of a heavy topic such as sexual assault as a means to an end so she can destroy Nick's image. We've gone over the different arguments from both her and Nick, and how both parties have good and bad arguments, but we haven't really looked into character and intention as much. Towards the end of her first video, Stephanie says this:
I think when someone shows me a pattern of predatory behavior, I'm not going to not listen, I'm not going to ignore it.
And I do agree that we need to be looking at patterns of behavior here. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that what I'm about to show you can be considered predatory behavior, but it's certainly indicative of her character. In one of her past videos, she talks about how her ex-boyfriend was flirtatious and would make her feel jealous. Gee, I sure wonder what she's gonna do.
And so while he was still getting out breakfast, I decided to put staples into every pair of shoes that he owned. And I'm not talking about getting the stapler and pressing on it and then, you know, like those passive smushed little flat staples come out. No, I am talking pre-smashed staples. I grab a staple box and I start like kind of like cutting them because they're kind of hard to break apart. In smaller pieces you can get big chunks. Like, you guys, you see how much I know about staples? Like, that's probably not a good thing because that's how I tortured him. I would stick them all over, all up in his shoes, and I did this every time that I visited him. Like once or twice a month I would re-staple all of his shoes. One time he texted me a picture of his big toe bleeding, okay, because like the staple punctured his toe. Before y'all get dramatic, it was like a drop of blood, okay? It wasn't like Dunkirk up in his shoe.
Wow, that's completely normal behavior. Oh wait, no it isn't, but it's a good thing it can't get any worse. Right? Here she is claiming that her boyfriend would shame her by sending her Bible verses, so she lies to him about having an STD.
I know why I didn't tell you guys this story. It makes me look like a horrible person, so you guys are gonna judge me. This was when I was in high school, and I was kind of dating this guy who was super Christian, super religious. We started dating because he was super cute. You know, we didn't do it all the way. We didn't go all the way. But I will say, we did some sexual stuff. We both consented to it, okay? I wasn't sucking on no air, but he kept, like, after we did some sexual stuff, he just kept shaming me. He would, like, send me Bible verses. I was just like, is this guy serious? And so at one point I got so sick of it, he ended up breaking up with me because he said that I was, like, changing his ways and I was a bad influence on him, which I totally get, but, like, so rude, dude, okay? So rude. I told him that I had gonorrhea. Did I even know what gonorrhea really was at the time? No. And I hate when the sex ed teacher is so dramatic. Like, look at all these people who died from gonorrhea. But I told him I had it. I didn't have it, but I told him I had it because what does one do when they contract an STD? You gotta tell his very religious mama. You gotta tell his tiger mom that he did some sexual stuff. And so he like cried, he was like crying on the phone with me and he's like, you're such a hoe, blah, blah, blah. That's what you get. You gonna shame me, I'm gonna make sure your mama shames you. I just don't fuck with that.
Here's Stephanie admitting to damaging her ex's property because he cheated.
So this guy who cheated on me refused to give me the gifts that I gave him back, was so upset about the fact that I had his Doraemon collection and I was holding that shit hostage. Don't wait for the universe to be karma. Like, you go be karma, bitch. I'm gonna ruin him. I'm gonna make him cry like a little boy. And the only way that I had power to do this was to F up his Doraemon collection. And now I know what you're thinking. No, bitch, you did not. Well, let me explain what I did. I had zero intention of giving him back his 350 like collectible Doraemon that he probably spent thousands of dollars on, okay?
And then there's this.
I have a pair of scissors from his desk, and I cut a hole on the butt of every one of his joggers that he had. It wasn't even like an organized cut. Like, I stacked them together, I like folded them, cut them, because this guy was gonna get emotional. He was obsessed with his joggers, like I said. We're talking about revenge. Yet, I'm just a loser. I was working and I decided to get revenge on a customer. I didn't want to share this story initially because it makes me look like a crazy person. So to exact revenge, I was willing to ruin my favorite pair of shoes. This is the definition of pattern of behavior. I feel like a lot of us run off patterns. If someone makes a mistake, you forgive them. But if they continue to do the same thing over and over and over again, and they hurt people every single time, I think that's very dangerous and I think that's very alarming. They make you feel guilty or ashamed. I was gonna shame him back. Okay, so how am I gonna approach this? Am I gonna be angry? Am I gonna be upset? Am I gonna be sad? Am I gonna make him feel guilty? My ex starts freaking out and my mutual friend is like, hey, like, listen, he's freaking out. Like, honestly, I think you're hurting his feelings a lot. Like, okay, well, you should have thought about that when you were sticking your tongue down someone else's throat. Like, honestly, your feelings are not my concern anymore.
As you can see, throughout her life, she's had a history of being vengeful and vindictive. Now, I'm generally not a fan of calling people out for things they've done in the past, because I believe people can improve and grow. However, judging from the manner she speaks about these things, and the fact that at one point she even says she doesn't regret it.
You gonna shame me, I'm gonna make sure your mama shames you. Do I regret it now that I'm older and more level-headed and not as petty? No! A bitch got burned. I wanted revenge. It felt awesome.
There doesn't seem to be much character development going on here. She may try to project this innocent nice girl persona, but there's clearly a darker side of Stephanie Soo that not many people talk about. None of this outright proves that her arguments against Nick are invalid, but it should certainly call her credibility into question. And in cases like this that involve a lot of hearsay and conjecture, it's certainly important to keep in mind. Could it be that Stephanie started panicking because she gossiped too much about Veronica to Nick and she didn't want anything to get out? Is that why she made this video? And most importantly, did she intentionally emotionally manipulate her audience? And then we have Zach Choi. According to Nick's account of events, the only people who knew his flight schedule, aside from his husband, were Stephanie and Zach. On the day Stephanie released her first video about Nick, Zach would repeatedly message Nick, asking if he was on the flight yet. When Nick was already on the plane, that's when the exposed video dropped. This would imply that Zach was conspiring with Stephanie to take down Nick, even if Zach's first response to the drama seemed to show that he was neutral. If you're wondering what Zach's motive in this would be, it would be that he and Stephanie are business partners and are planning to come up with their own line of ramen noodles. Although we couldn't find much about this, neither Stephanie nor Zach have refuted this, as far as I know. Nick was also thinking about making his own ramen noodles, and Zach wasn't very happy about that. If this is true, then it would make sense for Zach to favor his business partner. Both Stephanie and Zach mentioned they would be pursuing legal action against Nick, although nothing really seemed to happen. All in all, this situation involving Stephanie and Nick is a bit more complex and nuanced than it may seem at first. Neither party is truly in the right here, although Nick was certainly painted to be far worse than he actually is. At the end of the day, he shouldn't have pressured Stephanie to talk about something she didn't want to, but Stephanie also shouldn't have misled her viewers, whether it was intentional or not. Perhaps Nick would have had a fighting chance if he didn't make his response video 96 minutes long. I mean, come on man, the only reason I made time for this is because I'm making this video. Nick even acknowledges how many people wouldn't watch Stephanie's whole video, but then he goes and makes his video twice as long.
And she knows that most people are not gonna watch that whole video either. 45 minutes, 50 minutes, that's a very long time.
His video is practically the length of a feature film. That is, until movies started becoming way too long. And on that note, let's call it a day and accept that nobody in this drama was really right, and it really do be like that sometimes. That's about it for this video. I hope you liked it, and I also want to plug my Twitter and Instagram. I'm quite interactive on both of these platforms in general, so give those a follow. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Never thought I'd see you again. Look at all the plastic people acting like we don't exist. All these trends, they come and go, but stick with me, it won't be long till we find our way out of here. But it's alright if we leave tonight and never make it home. Yeah, it's alright, we'll find brighter in life.